This conference will now be recorded.
No doubts, we can start.
Yes, Vinu.
Okay, so where are we? What were we discussing? What are the data models that we have? Come on.
We have 4 data models: corporate data model, country-specific corporate data model, succession data model, and country-specific succession data model.
And HRIS propagation, event reason derivation, and workflow rules.
Very good. Okay, so today we are going to look at the XML files. Okay, the first data model that we are going to look at is the, give me 1 second. Sorry. Okay, so okay, so where are we? We are on the third step, right? Corporate data model. Defining the corporate data model, and this corporate data model we define it in the XML. Okay, and this can be imported or exported using instance or using the provisioning system. So first we'll see how to import, export in provisioning system, and then we'll go back to instance. Okay, so before going into the data models, let's look at some of the basics of the XML pad. Now I know most of you may not have the knowledge into XML pads. Okay, so I'll give you just some information about XML, how these XML codes are written and all. Maybe we may.
हाँ यार लोग ऐसे ही हैं स्कूल वाले
शरद मिश्रा थोड़ा साउंड कम कर दो ना यार. Hey, who is this Sharath Mishra? Yeah? Every day comes with unmute and had a lot of noise. Okay, yeah. So we'll look at some of the basics of XML pad, and then we'll move to the corporate data model. Okay. So firstly, for all of these data models, what we have, these are defined, or these are developed using the XML files. Okay, XML language. Now the standard
Vinu,
data
is
models are
recording
available.
on?
Yes, I think. Yes, it is.
It is okay.
No, recording is not open, I think.
Recording
It's
is
not
not
showing.
on.
No.
It is not showing up for me as well. Yeah, it
Okay.
is.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Okay. Be little loud. Ashwini, I cannot shout. This is, I think, maximum I can speak. Okay, I'll try to speak aloud. Okay, so all of these data models are defined in the XML language. So before going into the corporate data model, let's look at some of the basics that we should know on the XML language. Though we don't have to write the entire code from the beginning, or you don't write the codes in the system, but we should, even if at all required, you may have to go modify or change something or add something. We should know how to change, or where to change. You should know all these things. Okay, the first and foremost thing in the data model is, or in the XML language, is everything that you want to define, it should be between the opening tag, this is opening tag, and closing tag, this is closing tag. And whatever that you want to define, you would be defining between these two things. Like if I want to write a description, so first write description and just give your description. What do you want to have? This is a sample description. And then once it is done, again you need to close the description. Okay, so this is the syntax that we use for XML pad. Okay, next thing, Now, all of these foundation objects, the corporate data model is used to define foundation objects, and these foundation objects are called HRIS elements. All of these foundation objects are called HRIS elements in XML language. Now, firstly, the HRIS element is to be defined, and the HRIS element ID and label. For every HRIS element, we have the ID which is given by SuccessFactors system, and you cannot change the ID. What you can change is the label which displays in the front end. You can only change the label what you want to see in the front end, but you will not be able to change the ID. Okay, and once you define the ID and label, you'll go and look at the HRIS fields. There are number of fields that are added under each element, and again for these fields as well, we have ID, we have labels, we have max length, we have visibility, and we have required. So these are the attributes of the fields. So again, IDs are given by SuccessFactors system. You will not be touching IDs. If you want to have a different label in the front end, you can go change the label of the HRS field. Maximum length, how many characters you want to allow in the front end, that is defined under maximum length. Visibility can be either set as both or none. This is for the visibility. And then we have required, which is if you want a field to be made mandatory, you have to set it as true. Or if you don't want a field to be mandatory, either you can leave it blank or you can set it as a required attribute, set it as false, either true or false. So these are the attributes that we will be defining for each of the fields. And once you complete the HRIS fields, then you'll be closing your HRIS field and then your HRIS element. Okay, let's go look at the corporate data model, how to download and how to upload. Now, once you log into provisioning, let's click on your company name, scroll down to succession management. Go to succession management. You see, these are all the data models. Starting from here till here, these are the data models. First data model that we have is import export data model. This is succession data model. Second one is country specific succession data model, corporate data model, country specific corporate data model, event reason derivation XML. Now, event reason derivation, since it is recently migrated to business rule, we still have option to only export the data model. If you have migrated it to business rule, we still have the option to export it from the provisioning system. You cannot import, you can only export the event reason. Maybe in the coming releases, they will remove this from here. Okay, because we are not using the event reason derivation anymore. So the data model that we are going to look at is the corporate data model. You click on corporate data model, you'll find the option of import and export. You can import or you can export. If you have a file, you can go import. Or if you don't have the file, first you download the export file. You click on export, system will extract the details. System will extract the data model. Now let's go to this data model. This one, downloaded now. Right click and open with XML-pad. Now let me close the existing files that I have here. Okay, now right click on the corporate data model, click on edit with XML-pad. Okay, now the data model is opened in XML-pad, is using XML-pad. Now when you open the XML-pad, on the extreme left, you have the document outline. This is the document outline. Now you can just click on the outline it will take you to the source code. Now the code, if you want to look at the element, HRIS element, which is the foundation object, you just keep clicking on it. This is the outline. For whichever element you want to go, you can click on here and system shows you the source code. Now this section shows up the code, Now the best thing in the XML pad is you can look at the entire data model in table structure. Even if you are new to XML pad, even if you don't know any technical things, you can go just look at the table view. Now whatever that you do it in the coding, you can also do it from the table view as well. Now in the table view, the first thing that you see is corporate data model. Now let's say this is your corporate data model. Now expand corporate data model. First you have description. You place your cursor on description, go to source view, it shows up the description. If you see here, description is starting. Now you see the blue line, it is starting from here, description, SuccessFactors HRIS data model, and then the description is closed. Now you place your cursor on corporate data model. The blue line is starting here, the data model is starting from here, and the corporate data model ending is here. You see this blue line, it is ending here. Okay. Similarly, if I go select a HRIS element, you select HRIS element, it is starting from line number 7. Okay. And if you scroll down, it is ending here. HRIS element is ending here. And next element is starting from here. This element is ended here. So every line or every item that you open, you should also be closing it. Now this is the opening, and at the end of this line, you'll find the closing. Now you see here label, you see the label is opened here and label is closed here. In between, you'll define what you want to see. Now let's go to table view. Under table view, you can see that there are 17 foundation objects, total of 17 foundation objects. You see here HRIS element 17. So these are the 17 foundation objects that we have. Now they are not actually 17. I'll tell you what are those. Okay. Now within one foundation objects, we have multiple sections. So that is why it's showing as 17. But actually we have only 11 foundation objects that we'll see. Now, for each and every foundation object, the ID is defined. So you cannot change this ID. If you look at the ID, it says location group. L is small. There is no space between location and group. G is capital. But what we see in the front end is in the label here. You see here label. There are 39 labels defined for location group. That means anybody with this language logs in, they will see the location group as this one. If for some language the label is not defined, they will see this one, which is the default label. Always the first label what you see is the default label. If in some language, if the label is not defined, they will see the default label. And if the label is maintained in that any particular language, they will see that language. So all of these things, like you have the location group object name maintained in 13 different languages. So users with these languages can foundation objects in their own language. For every object, be it location group, pay grade, pay range, location, all of these objects, the labels are defined. IDs and labels. Now, if your customer says, I want to change, or I want to see the location group as, state. Okay, so you go change it to state. Save this file and upload into the system. You save this file and upload it into the system. Now I've changed it to state. So let me go to provisioning, import file, choose this data model, give some submit. Now your data model is uploaded. Now, if I want to go and look at the data model in my instance, I'll just go here and log in. Just go and log into instance using SF admin, the super admin. Now, if I go to the foundation objects, I'll see here the foundation object, the first foundation object, which is actually the location group, it is changed to state. It is changed to state because I have changed the label to state here. Now the other languages we see, no, I have not changed any label. So if I go here, English GB, it says location group, but this is not English GB. The language what I have selected is English US, but that English US is not maintained here. So that's why it shows up the default label. So if can I go and enable English language and see if it is showing up as location group? Yes. Now duplicate the screen. I'll go to settings. I'll go to settings, change language, and change it to English UK. Switch. From English US, I've changed my language to English UK. Now, if I go to manage organization, there is a navigation called manage organization pay and job structure. If I go here, I see the object name as location group, not as state, because I have only changed the default label. If for any language, if I have not changed, now I have logged in as English GB with English GB language. So I still see it as location group. But if I log into the system, change the language as English US, it shows up this default label because English US is not defined in these 39 languages. So it always shows up the default labels that are defined. Clear? Any doubts on ID label?
We cannot customize this data label.
What customization you want to do?
Like here in data model, you like if you need to do any customization or changes. So
what customizations? Be specific. What do you want to do?
In location group, if you want only location or like state or like town.
Where is location? Where now you want to add a custom field?
Yes. Is
it? Okay, yeah, we can do that.
These are
You haven't gone to field set.
In the data model, this
level. Go ahead.
This is all standard fields or like what?
We haven't
I'm not getting it.
We have not discussed about the fields yet. We have only discussed about the ID and the label. So IDs cannot be changed and the element labels can be changed. So have you understood up to this point?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. We'll discuss about fields. Okay. So next thing that we have is the fields. For each of the object, when you log in, you see multiple fields here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 effective date. So there are total of 6 fields, whereas this one is the date field. You have code, name, description, status, and there is a custom string one which is added. Okay, so we see these 6 fields, but I can see that there are 76 fields available in location group. Now for location group object, you can see that the HRIS field, there are 76 fields. Now when you expand these 76 fields, we can see the fields and their attributes. First attribute is the maximum length. For every field, you define how many characters you want to have. And the ID of the field, these are the IDs. Again, you cannot change the IDs. You can only look at the IDs. And this is the ID. Visibility, some of the fields, if you see, the visibility is set as none. So you don't see them in the front end. And some of the fields, it is set as both. So for whichever field we have the visibility set as both, we can see them on the front end. So these are the fields which are editable. You can go edit some data in it because the visibility is set as both. And if you set it as none, those fields won't show up here. That means in the backend, in the data model, we have 76 fields which are available under each object. And whatever fields that are enabled, that are set to both the set the visibility as both, those fields show up in the front end and we can edit them. And required, for some of the fields, the required attribute is set as true. So external code required is set as true. Status required is set as true. Start date required is set as true. That means this is the code which is external code, mandatory, status which is mandatory, and the start date which is mandatory. So these three fields are mandatory, 1, 2, and 3. And for each of the field, external code, we see it in the front end as code. Why? Because if I expand label, I see here English underscore GB, it is set as code. But the default label is showing as location group. That if I change back my language to English US, I'll change the language to English. And now if I go to organization pay, here I see the object as state. Okay, let's go to state. Now object label is state, and the external code, the first field is showing as location group code. Why? Because it is now labeled as location group code. Okay, so for each and every field, the labels are maintained here. These are the labels. And if it is both, it shows up in the front end. If it is none, it won't show up in the front end. Now there is one custom field which is added here. The maximum length is set as 10. Now if I type here something, I can only type till 10 characters. Okay, and more than 10 characters, it doesn't allow you because it is set to have the 10 characters only. And this is enabled. Now why you see it as a test field? Because the label of the custom string 1 is set as test field here. So we have 20 custom strings which can be enabled for each object, 10 date fields which can be enabled, 20 long fields, and 20 double fields which can be used. So these are all the custom fields which are not enabled as of now, and if you want to enable them, you can go enable them. Or if you don't want to see, you go change it to none. You go change it to none. It won't show up. Clear on fields?
Sir, after the changes, we have to import the same, correct?
Yes. Every time you make changes in the XML, you have to import back into the system.
Okay. Okay, sir.
To see those changes, you have to import. Okay. So now let me go back to location group label. I will change this back to location group. Now, if you want to change or if you want to add any field, okay. Now let me go to fields. Here we have system string 1, 2, 3, and so on. So I will go enable this field both. And what do you want to label it as? I want to label it as maybe city. Okay. And if you want this field to be made mandatory, you go add it here true. So this field will be mandatory. You want to allow only 50 characters, just put 50. Now save it. So I have enabled a field called custom string 2, which is labeled as city, and this is a mandatory field with 50 characters. So I've enabled, I've changed the maximum length, I have changed the visibility, I've changed the required attribute to true, and I've changed the label. Okay, now I save this. Now you can also import this data model from instance. From instance, you can go to corporate data model. Search for corporate. System will show your corporate data model. Now here you go import. Import this data model. You'll say test and say import. Go back here. What I have changed the label of location from state to location group, and I have enabled a field, and I have made some changes to the attributes. So I've made the field mandatory, I've enabled, I've changed the label, and I've set the maximum length as well. Now this is uploaded successfully. Now you go, just see here or refresh once. You see here location group. Now this is the location group object. The label is changed. So you have location group code here. City we have enabled, which is a mandatory field. And when you type some characters here, it allows up to 50 characters. After 50 characters, it doesn't allow. It says reach the maximum length allowed of 50 characters. So for any object, if you want to enable a field, you go make change or make the property to both visibility property. Now same thing, if you want to do it in the coding, now select the field, click on source. You see, this is the coding. HRIS field, maximum length 50 characters, ID is custom string 2, visibility is equal to both, required is equal to true, and label is equal to city. Now, if you don't want required to be mandatory, you just go remove this and save. Or you can also have required is equal to false. Both of them are same. Either required is equal to false, or you don't maintain any required at all. That is also same. Clear on fields? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So next thing, after HRS fields. Now same with any other object. You just go to that object, let's say pay grade or pay range. You go to pay range, you see HRS fields, there are 81 fields, but only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 fields are enabled and rest of the fields are not enabled. And for 3 of them or 4 of them, we have set the required option to true. So only these fields are mandatory. Okay. Yes. No.
Okay,
Yes.
Vinod.
Yes. Yeah, Venu. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now moving to associations. Associations are very important. Okay. After the ID, label, and fields, we have the associations, and we can see that associations are defined only for 3 objects. Now, what are associations? Okay, associations are nothing but the relationships. Now, one object is to be used in a different object. Like here, the example of pay range. Now, if I go to pay range object, if I go to pay range object, I can see here a pay grade, which is a foundation object. I can see geozone, which is also a foundation object. I can see a legal entity, which is also an object. So within pay range object, we can see other foundation objects. That means these three objects are associated with the pay range object. Okay, and for the associations, we have something called multiplicity, which can be set as either 1-to-1 or 1-to-many. Meaning, if I set the multiplicity of the object to 1-to-1, you can have one object associated with another object. One value of the object can be associated with another value. And if it is 1-to-many, for one object, you can have many object values added.
Venu, are you there?
So you there?
Can you all hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
I'm sorry, there's a disconnect. Okay, now let me refresh it once. I think, okay, if I go to pay range, the multiplicity 1-to-1 and 1-to-many. Now, if you see for pay grade, I can choose one value of pay grade. When defining or when maintaining a pay range, I can choose one pay grade from the drop down. I can choose one geozone from the drop down, and I can choose one legal entity from the drop down, because now these objects are associated with pay range with multiplicity 1-to-1. So that's why you can only choose one value. Now, if I go to location object, I'll show you an example of 1-to-many. Here also, we see that we have a geozone. You can choose one geozone from the drop-down. And legal entity, you see it here onto the left-hand side. You go add a legal entity. Say I've chosen one legal entity. You can also add one other legal entity. You can also add another legal entity. So that means you can add many legal entities to one location. So when you associate multiple legal entities with one location, let's say today I'm creating a location called Bangalore and associated that with the 10 different companies. So all of those 10 companies can use the location called Bangalore. So I don't have to create 10 different locations to use it for the 10 companies. I can create one location called Bangalore and add or make sure I can add that to any employees of these 10 companies. Clear? Now, same thing if I go and see it here in the data model. HRIS association, you expand HRIS association and see here the association defined between the location and the geozone is 1-to-1. And the association between legal entity and location is 1-to-many. Here you are choosing the object ID, this one. Now, if you want to associate, you have to choose the ID, not the label. For whichever object, whatever association that you are adding, you can add that using the ID, not with the label. So wherever you choose, wherever you see, this is the pay grade. So pay grade, the ID of the pay grade is this one, pay grade. Now, if I want to add more associations, let's say for pay range, I want to add For pay range, I want to add a location as well. So you cannot add directly in the table. For adding an association, you see here, go to the code. Just copy one of the line item, paste. Instead of legal entity, you add location. Instead of one-to-one, you make it one-to-many. Now, if you don't want required, you can just remove it. Same, if you maintain required is equal to false, or if you don't maintain required is equal to anything, that is same. But if you want to have this field as a mandatory, you have to maintain it as required is equal to true. Now let me save this. Let me save this object. Now if I go to table view, whatever association that I have added, the fourth association for pay range, that will show up in the table view as well. Now table view, if the object association exists, you can make changes. If you want to make it true or false or one-to-many or one-to-one, these changes can be done. Now I have changed this. So let me go back to corporate data model, choose the object, choose the data model and import. I'll go back. Let's see. I'll go to still uploading. Should not take this long. Yeah, this is uploaded. Corporate data model has been uploaded successfully. Now, if I go to range object, you will see here location. And since we have added the location as one-to-many, you can add multiple locations here. You can add multiple locations here. Any locations can be added. Only one legal entity, one zone, one pay grade. Many locations can be added. Clear on associations?
Yes, Vinu.
Others?
Yes.
Yes, Vinu, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Vinu, one question I have. Do we validate for DTD, or is it not
We don't
mandatory,
do.
or we can use?
Not required.
Okay.
Venu, very, I think I'm asking very basic thing. Whatever this I'm seeing on the screen is a data set, right? From data model.
Yeah. Whatever that you see on the front end is the object maintenance. And what we are doing here in the data model is the definition or the design part. What fields you want to have to maintain a pay range, that is designed in the data model. Whereas in the front end, in this page, you maintain the data. So a location object, what fields you want to have to create a location. So that is defined in the data model. And in the front end, you go create different locations like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, Mumbai, Chennai, and so on. So all of those you maintain it in the front end in the instance.
Okay, that is data. And what is data set in this data set?
We don't have any data set. We don't use the word called data set here.
Data set. Okay. And in this, like you have in status currency, there are like F4 values enable is there, no? Like
No,
drop down list.
we don't. This is not F4. This is a drop down. Now these drop downs, these are some of the standard fields which are available. Okay.
Okay.
So by default, wherever you use a status field, it shows up either active or inactive. And this has got a significance. Now, if you want an object to be available in the front end for users, you should have the status set as active. If you set the status as inactive, that particular object will not show up in the front end. Let's say
Let's
If your
say,
customer has started working in one of the location, okay, initially when the company has started 2010, they have started in one of the location. After 4 years, they have decided to shut down their operations in this location and move to a different location. So instead of deleting the location, now what happens if you keep the location active? Now people might go hire employees and choose that location for the employees. That's not correct, because we are no more operating from that location. So what you have to do is with that particular effective date, you make the object as inactive so that it won't show in the front end if you search between that date range.
is there any scenario like for a custom string or custom field, if we
Hmm.
create, how can we have like a drop down list like facility over there?
No,
Is
if you
it
want to, yeah, we can add the pick list. We can add the pick
the
list. The drop down meaning the pick list. So we can also
pick
have
list?
a strings as set as your pick list. That I'll show you in country specific corporate data model.
Okay, okay, fine.
You just need to maintain pick list ID.
Okay. So this thing like the association is can be done only through the ID, not through the label.
Yes, not to the label. You don't add
Not through.
the label. System doesn't accept the label.
And system even won't accept to change the ID also.
It won't allow you to change ID. If you are changing the
Okay.
ID, that means you are creating a custom. System recognizes the object with the ID. If you are
Okay.
changing the ID, that means it's a new object.
New object. Okay.
And you cannot create custom foundation objects.
Okay. That means IDs cannot be created. That you meant to say that has to be
Yes.
only downloaded from the system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So after associations, again in table structure, we see the fields. These are duplicated. 1, 2, 3, and 4. These fields. All of them are same. Now you place your cursor here and go to source view. It takes you to line number 13073. Right? And if you place your cursor and go to source, it takes you to 13073. The same field. Or you go to here, fields here, or to source. It takes you to the same code 13073. So here the fields are duplicated. The field structure is duplicated. After association, you have again fields. So this is not required. And then you have trigger rules. This is one of the just a sample rule which is added into the corporate data model, but usually we don't use this rule. This is just for testing. Somebody must have added here, but we don't use the rule here. Okay, we'll be discussing rules in the coming classes, business rules, how to write business rules, that we'll see in the coming classes. Again, fields, and then you have search criteria. The last thing in the corporate data model is the search criteria. And the search criteria is defined for each and every object. Now, what is a search criteria? If I want to look at the available objects in the system, now you're creating this object. You see here, I am creating new object. If I have to create a new object, I'm going and selecting here pay range. So it creates the new object. You add all of these details and save, it creates. Now, if I want to search the existing pay ranges in the system, I have to use this route. Go search for pay range, and in the drop down, you will see these are the pay ranges. And you can search now if there are thousands of records. I cannot go and search like this, right? So you can search for, let's say, Bangalore. There is no Bangalore. Sorry, this is pay range, right? H01. You see here, I'm searching with H01, system is giving the probable searches. Now, that means in the system, there are some pay ranges with this ID. You see, this is the ID and this is the name. So I can also search with the ID and I can also search with the code. So this is the code H-AU-02. What is this? This is the code and this is the name. So you can search with the ID, which is external code, or the name. For any object, you go to pay component. You search for the pay component code, it shows up the pay component here. See, 1000, it is hourly rate. So either you can search with the code or you can search with the name. So for most of the objects, the search criteria is set as external code and name. You see here, search fields, there are two fields used to search the object, external code and name. What is external code and name? Here under HRIS fields, you don't have to go here and search here. Under HRIS fields, what is external code? This is the code. This is the name. These two fields are used to search this criteria. Now, if I go to location, I may see multiple fields there, not two. For all of the objects, it is generally two fields set as search criteria. Only for location, we have the four fields set as search criteria. Now, what are those fields? You have external code, name. Additionally, you have corporate address city, corporate address country. Meaning, if I go to location here, I will see, now if I search for Bangalore, you see here, I can search with the code, I can search with the name. If city is maintained, I can search with city. If country is maintained, I can search with country. Now, if I go search with country IND, so all the locations with country IND will show up here. See here, all of these locations with country are showing up. Now, if I search for Hyderabad, here you have test India, NV_India, Hyderabad. So you go search for Hyderabad. See, this is the Hyderabad. This one, HYDERAA. Okay, so there is a spelling mistake. Now go to this object. Now you see here NV_India. So that means you can search with NV_India here. Search with NV_India. You can search with test India. You can search with test India. And this is corporate address city, corporate address country. Corporate address is your business address. You have country and you have city, which is set as Hyderabad. So you can search with these fields as well. Okay, that's your search criteria. Now, if you want to add any additional criteria for any object, you go add it here in the search criteria. Clear? That's your corporate data model. Now, it is easy to understand the data model. Now, it looks lengthy. If you look at the source view, it is around thousands of, now 34,371 lines of code. But it is not that difficult. It is simple. So why do we have these many lines is for each element. Now, if I go and look at the element or the corporate data model in source view, it starts from here. It starts from corporate data model here. So you can also see the blue line. Where is it going? If I select, if I place my cursor on one of the line, it shows up the starting and ending because it is starting on this line and ending in the same line. So this blue line is here. HRIS element, it is starting from here, going down here. If I go select HRIS field is started here, and these are the labels. And if you scroll down, the HRIS field completed here. Next field is starting here. So either you can go choose the outline here. You choose the outline here, this element. Second element is geozone. Third element is location. Fourth element is pay range. Within pay range, I want to go and see the fields. Go search for the field. This field, external code field. This is name field. This is your description. After fields, you have associations. This is your association. And after association, you have search criteria. Clear? How to open data model, how to export the data model, how to import data model, how to make or know what changes you can make in the data model. Yes, no, doubts? Strange that you have so many people and none of you have got any doubts in the data model.
We know this it seems to be like every in the corporate data model, the information about geographical information fields or the payment information, whatever the information is there, altogether it is already there in the template itself. So what is like any custom field in real time, like what would be the scenario, like we need a custom field over there?
99% your customer will not be asking any changes in the corporate data model. If somebody asks you in the interview if you have changed anything, you can simply say that I have not changed anything in the data model, but given a chance, if I have to make any changes, I can make changes into the data model. That's what you can say.
Like
Because why people or why customers don't ask any changes is whatever that we see here or whatever that we maintain in the front end, we will be doing it, we will be doing them in the system. Customer will not have access to these pages, these screens, manage organization page. It is we who will be configuring or will be using these screens to maintain the data. Now, if customer want to know, or if some admins want to know, maybe after the implementation, some of the end users want to create locations or departments, then they might ask you what is this field, what is that field. So you can just tell them. Okay. Now customer will only give you what locations they want to see in the system. They only give you what pay components they want to see in the system, what grades they want to use in the system. But how you are creating, what fields are you filling, that is not necessary for them. But depending on your customer's requirement, sometimes you may have to tweak or you may have to change the associations. So if your customer has got four companies, okay, company 1, company 2, company 3, and company 4. Okay, now these companies, we have different locations. Let's say they operate from 100 locations. Okay, so you have created 100 locations. Do they want to show up each location in all of those four companies? Now if customer says no, one company only operates from 20 locations, the other company operates from 40 locations, other company operates in 70 locations, the other company operates from 100 locations. There might be some common locations, okay, where you have these companies. Okay, so in that case, what you have to do is you should have the association of the location and company as one to many, so that every time you create a company, every time you create a location, you go add your company to that location, whether to show up or not. Company X, no, if are they working in this location or not? If yes, then add that location. So you should be able to add multiple locations. So system gives you the standard association as one to many. Now sometimes I don't want to show up for I don't want, because my requirement is I have only one company and I have 10 locations. So here I don't need company as a one to many association. There is no point in having the one to many association between location and company. So you can have it only as one to one. You go change the association from one to many to one to one. Okay, so depending on the scenarios that your customer has, you can make the changes in the system.
Okay.
Otherwise, you don't do much of the changes in corporate data model. But you should know these data models, how to change, what to change, where to change, how to access, all these things you should know.
The main thing is association only in this.
Yes.
and visibility. Is that no problem? So, whatever the example you told, that I have understood, but can you open up that association thing one more time, please?
Okay. Which association you want to see?
The
Which
same
object?
example, what you just.
Okay. Let me go here. Table view.
Yeah, table.
Okay. And associations, you have one for location, one for pay range, one for pay component group. Okay. Now you can go look at pay component group. Expand.
Okay.
You have only one association for pay component group. That is one to many and pay component. That means you
Okay.
can add many pay components to one pay component group. Whereas here we have multiple associations. We have 3 or 4 associations. We have 4 associations. We have one to one, one to many. Okay. Full, false, and then true also. If you want, you can make true also.
So just
Very
now the
different.
example which you told is that fourth, na? In the fourth
Hmm.
ID, one to many location equal to true, it has to be there.
No, if it is mandatory, you can make it true. No, mandatory means you go to
Okay.
pay component group. Here, pay component is associated and it is a mandatory. You see here, without pay component, you cannot save the record.
Save. Okay. That is okay. Mhm.
And Venu, what is
Well,
the location group and time zone? How
Location
do we
group
define
and
that?
time zone. Now, location group and time zone, it is not required for every customer. Okay. Now, basically, for companies like retail industry, customers like retail industry where they have, where they operate from multiple locations in a country, right? So within Bangalore, let's say, within Bangalore, they have 20 branches. Okay. In Chennai, let's say they have 10 branches. In Hyderabad, you have 15 branches. Okay. One customer, they operate from these 3 locations, and each location they have different branches. Now you want to, or you have more locations, or okay, let's say they operate from 20 different locations from India. Now for reporting purpose, I want to see the business what I have done, or maybe I want to see all the employees of one particular group. Now I want to, let's say you have Mumbai, you have Pune, you have Nasik, you have Rajasthan. Okay, we operate from all of these locations. So I want to segregate my locations into different groups: north, south, and east. Now this can be my group. Now this group, while creating a location, you add which location group does this location belongs to, so that when I report, I can filter on just location group. Instead of selecting multiple locations to filter, I select the location group. So when I select location group south, I will find all the location employees. That's your location group. You can group some of the locations into one set. That's your location group. Now time zone, we have different time zones across the globe, right? So for India, we have Asia, Kolkata, GS, which is UTC plus 5.5 hours. Or for US, you have a different time zone. So for the location, you can choose what is the time zone. Based on the time zone that employee logs in, system will show whether it is an evening, whether it is an afternoon, or what time is it. Okay, so it will show up. You can also add the time zone or the time for the employee. Now you can see here the time. I don't know if it is maintained here. Yeah, local time, you see here, Friday 10:30. Because this this employee is in the time zone of, you go to job information, you'll find the time zone, what time zone the employee is in. So time zone is tagged to your US Eastern time zone, GMT 4 hours.
Venu, like.
So, Vinu, do we have standard time zones, like from where to get this value, like US Eastern, which is showing here? So, do we have a pick list for this, or how does it appear?
Time zone, we don't have pick list. Now that's a standard fee. That's the standard object itself. And also maintain, I think. This, let me show you the time zone. I think we have it in pick list or object. Rafi, what was your doubt?
After you finish this, I'll ask that. Continue, please.
Yeah. Time zone is here. This is a standard one. You can no system gives you all the available time zones. But if you want to create your own, you can go and create time zone also here. This is a generic object. Okay, code name. You can see the country. You can set offset to UTC or DST offset to UTC. These things can be maintained.
Okay. So shall I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So my understanding of this time zone is like whenever we update the location, the time zone has to be auto-populated.
Whenever you will be adding the time zone at the location level. Okay. So if you go here, manage or pay, you'll be choosing the time zone when you're creating a location. So that system defaults the time zone when you choose a location for the employee. So there you don't have to maintain. That's again a propagation.
So just now you showed up one of the employees, right? If we
Yes.
change that location of that employee, the time zone has to be auto-populated.
Yeah, time zone will be auto-populated here. Now location is linked to your company again. Here, location will be adding to company. Okay. So all the locations which are available for this company will show up in the drop down. Okay. Now, US Eastern time zone, which location is in Philadelphia. So I'll select a different location.
You select
Chicago.
Bangalore, India. You select.
See here, the time zone is changed here. GMT 5 hours, GMT minus 5 hours. This is 4 hours earlier. It is now Chicago. Now somebody must have created Bangalore also to show up for this company. So if I go and
GMT plus
search for location Bangalore, you see the company is maintained 1710. So that is why it is showing up. This employee belongs to 1710. You choose Bangalore, so it shows up a different time zone. Again, it is showing as invalid time zone. This is not the correct time zone. It should be Asia Kolkata. Okay.
So this time zone and location are like is there any association in between them, or like only just we have to?
It is not association. Now, all the fields that we add on the object level, this is not. It is not association. It is not always association. It can be an object which is linked to it, or it can be association, or it can be a pick list value.
Okay. So this thing is altogether is provisioning of corporate data model.
Provisioning, earlier we used to manage only from provisioning, but now we have option to maintain this from instance as well.
Okay, but today we are doing it in provisioning only, like
No, I've shown you it in instance, right?
instance also.
Go search.
Confusion.
Yeah. I've downloaded from corporate data model here, import export corporate data model. I've shown you it on the provisioning here, and I've shown you here on the instance as well.
So,
Okay.
okay.
Anything else before we wind up?
So tomorrow there will be class, or like is it a holiday?
No, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, and since Monday is a festival, we will not be taking class on Monday. We'll connect back on Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay. I wish you all a happy Diwali.
Wish you the same.
Yep.
Happy
So
Diwali,
this
Venu. Happy Diwali,
One
this
everyone.
minute.
Wish you a happy Diwali, sir.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
This
Go ahead.
practical this node this like what do you say, that whatever the practical you have shown, like that thing will be shared not in the video, like is there anything like navigation path kind of
Okay.
thing?
So a good thing that you have reminded. Since you have got 3 days of holiday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I'll give you some homework. Okay. I want
Yeah.
all of you to download the corporate data model. Go through the data model first. Okay. Try to make some changes in the objects. Okay. Make a change in the label for the HRIS element. Okay. One of you change the location label, one of you change the location group label, one of you change the pay grade label. Okay. So I would recommend you to keep a copy of the data model which you download first. Okay. So that you can, after testing it, you can upload back into the system the original version. Okay. And you can make some fields, you can enable some fields, you can change the properties of some fields and upload it into the system.
So this
So
navigation path.
Can we do that? Sorry?
Venu, I have a doubt actually.
Go ahead. Now, when I ask you, homework to do some homework, you are asking doubts. Huh? Go ahead.
As for every like new implementation, like we have to download the corporate data. Like for every data field, we have to download this. We have to import.
No,
The process.
if not download, you have to upload it into the system. For the first time, you download it from the portal, the partners portal, and upload it into the system. If there are no changes, you don't have to export and import. If there are changes, you can export, make change, upload.
So that is the standard template, like for the corporate data model.
Corporate data model, every customer will have the same template. Now you can also download from demo instance and upload into your customer instance if you're doing it for the first time.
But that will include custom fields also, Venu, right?
Which one?
That would include the customization also, which we have already in demo
No,
system.
if you the demo system, if you have not made any changes, that's fine. You can upload the fresh one, or you can also download it from the partner and upload.
Like when we get the demo system for the first time, so it's fresh. There's nothing inside it.
Maybe somebody must have already used it, so they must have made some changes in it.
And
Everybody will not be getting no different instance. No, all of you must be getting the same instance. So if people have already made some changes, you can see those changes in the system. You can revert them, or you can also make some changes.
And Venu, you told yesterday that you will show from where to export the
Remind me
data
on
model
Monday
partner.
I'll show you. Yeah. We'll see that. We'll see all the bunch of data. See how to download the bunch of data models.
Also, Venu, I wanted to see the DTD validation also, how to do that, because I don't know that. So just
You don't have to do any DTD validations. You first download the data model from partner edge, you upload it into your provisioning. So did I make any changes in the DTD files?
No, but if you make any changes to the data model and we are saving it, so what if there is some, we maintain some incorrect data or something is incorrect? So to validate that thing.
Incorrect data system, if I try to make some change here, let's say this one, source,
Okay.
if you have not, so let's say I've removed this one, okay? And if I save this, says this file is not passed properly and may be invalid. Okay, why? What happened? Because it is not well formed. This one. Okay.
I got it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you all. We'll catch up on Tuesday.
Thank you, Venu.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Venu. Thank you.